My dad gave my sister $1 million trust fund, handed it to her like a birthday card, then looked me straight in the eye and said, "If you want to make it, you'll just have to work harder." So I did. I worked until my knuckles bled, until I forgot what weekends felt like. But not in the way he expected. Because when you spend your whole life being treated like a backup plan, eventually you stop playing by their rules. They had their private jets, their charity galas, their mansion on the hill. And then one decision, one signature from me. I pulled the plug on all of it. And they never saw it coming. Asterisk, tell me something. What would you do if your own father treated you like you were disposable? My name is Sarah Wynn, and I've learned to live with silence. Not the kind that wraps you in peace. The kind that rings in your ears when you realize people you love have quietly decided you don't matter. I'm 27 now. I live in a one-bedroom apartment above a struggling thrift store that smells like damp sweaters and forgotten perfume. My couch is secondhand, my mattress sits on the floor, and my walls are thin enough that I know my neighbor snores like a lawnmower. I work 2 jobs. Copywriting for small businesses during the day, mostly trying to make Rust look romantic, and cleaning law offices at night. I haven't taken a vacation in 5 years. And still, I'm doing better than anyone ever expected. Because no one expected much from me. Not even my own father. Growing up, we lived in a 5-bedroom estate with white columns and imported marble countertops. We had a private chef named Wallace and an herb garden that was really just decorative. There was a koi pond, a sauna, a chandelier in the entryway so big I used to imagine it might crash down and shatter the entire house like glass confetti. My father, Dorian Wynn, made his fortune in logistics. Or, more accurately, in knowing the right people. He was the kind of man who smiled in every photograph but never once picked up the phone when I called him from college, crying in the dark over ramen noodles and a failing Wi-Fi connection. My mother, Celeste, was what you'd call refined. She believed in thank you cards, fresh lilies in every room, and never raising your voice unless the help forgot the hollandaise. She said things like, "We don't air dirty laundry, Saris. We dry clean it." And then there was Camera, my younger sister, the golden child. From the moment she was born, she glittered. Hair like honey, skin that never blemished, the laugh of a Disney princess. She was the sun in every family photo. Even as kids, when I'd build something with blocks, they'd call me smart. When she knocked it down with a giggle, they'd call her charming. Camera cried, she got a cupcake. I cried, I got a speech about self-reliance. By the time I was 15, I knew my place, the extra, the echo. The daughter whose job was to clap for her sister's spotlight and keep quiet in the wings. And then came my 18th birthday. Most kids get a party, a cake, maybe a used car if their parents are generous. Me? I got a speech. Dad sat me down in the living room. Not even privately, right in front of Mom and Camera, and told me, "You're on your own now, Saris. We believe in building character, not handing things out." I remember blinking at him, thinking, wasn't this the same man who once threatened to sue a school for giving Camera a B? I didn't cry. Not then. I just nodded and packed my things 2 days later. I moved into a basement apartment with water stains on the ceiling and a furnace that rattled like a ghost trapped in metal. I worked double shifts at a diner and ate peanut butter straight from the jar. I watched my savings vanish into textbooks and bus fare. And still, every time I faltered, I told myself it was fine. I didn't need them. I'd make it on my own. And I did. I clawed my way through community college, then took freelancing jobs that paid in exposure until someone finally paid in dollars. I built a portfolio, built a routine, built a life. But I built it while they pretended I didn't exist. And then Camera turned 21. She got a trust fund, $1 million trust fund, and a cherry red BMW convertible with her initials on the plates. I found out on Instagram. My mother had posted a picture of Camera blowing out candles on a tiered cake, her smile brighter than the custom string lights. The caption read, "So proud of our golden girl. You've earned every bit of this. Happy 21st, sweetheart." Earned. I sat there in my kitchen, staring at that word. My dinner was canned soup. My heater hadn't worked for 2 weeks. And they were sipping champagne under fairy lights, pretending fairness was subjective. At first, I laughed. A bitter, quiet kind of laugh that got stuck in my throat. Then I told myself maybe it was true. Maybe I wasn't ambitious enough. Maybe I hadn't earned anything. But then a different thought crept in. What if it wasn't just neglect? What if they planned this all along? So I did something I swore I never would. I went back. I told Camera I missed her, that I wanted to catch up. She invited me to the estate like it was nothing, like I hadn't been missing from their lives for nearly a decade. She offered me a mimosa and showed off her new Pilates studio in the guest house. I smiled, nodded, pretended I wasn't counting every second, because I wasn't there for closure. I was there for proof. While Camera left for a massage appointment and Mom disappeared to her book club, I slipped into Dad's office. The room was just as I remembered. Dark wood, mahogany shelves, the smell of leather and old ambition. The cabinets were locked, but I'd spent enough time ghostwriting for tech startups to know the basics of breaking into digital storage. 10 minutes. That's all it took. Behind a false panel at the back of the bottom drawer, I found the paperwork. Trust fund documents, legal files, financial allocations. Camera's name in bold. $1 million account under her social security number. Dated the week she turned 18. And just beneath it, a copy of our grandfather's original will. He'd left equal amounts to both of us. But that version had been overridden. I found a signed amendment, dated 6 months after his death. Signed by my father. My name had been struck out. Cameras had been multiplied. He rewrote the legacy.
He rewrote me.
I sat there, holding the papers in my lap, feeling like the floor had been ripped out from under me. Everything I'd told myself, that I was the problem, that I just hadn't worked hard enough, that I deserved nothing because I was less. None of it was true. They didn't forget me. They chose to exclude me. They called it tough love. But what kind of love hides signatures in locked drawers? I didn't cry. Not then. I didn't even breathe heavy. I just folded the documents, photographed them with my phone, and placed everything back exactly how I'd found it. I walked out of that house with a mimosa smile and a goodbye hug, and the knowledge that everything I'd sacrificed, every year I'd spent hungry and alone, was never about building character. It was about erasure. They gave Camera a kingdom and told me to be grateful for the ashes. That night, I sat in my apartment with the documents spread out on my coffee table. I stared at them for hours, not because I didn't understand them, but because now I understood everything. They never planned for me to succeed. They made sure I couldn't. They pulled the ladder up as I climbed and told me the fall was my fault. But I'm still here. And now I know what they've buried. Now I know how it all works. And maybe they thought I'd stay quiet. Stay grateful for scraps. Stay away. But here's the thing about people like me. The ones you write off, the ones you don't invite to the table. We learn to build tables of our own. And once they're strong enough, we flip yours upside down. That's what I decided that night. No more silence. No more pretending. If they could rewire a legacy to leave me behind, I could do the same to their future. And I would. Quietly.
Strategically.
Until everything they built, every false smile, every secret fund, every lie wrapped in gold ribbon, collapsed under the weight of the truth. Because they gave Camera the money, but they gave me the fire. And they never saw me coming. I didn't sleep that night. Not from grief. Not anymore. What I felt was colder.
Cleaner.
It was clarity. For the first time, I saw my family for who they really were. And I stopped blaming myself for what they did. But clarity is dangerous. It makes you ask hard questions. Like, if they went this far to erase me from my own inheritance, what else were they hiding? I started digging. Not just into the documents I stole, but into the structure of everything they owned. Dad's logistics empire. Camera's influencer career. Mom's charities. They turned our family into a brand. The Win Legacy. All crisp suits, glowing smiles, and luxury getaways to Monaco. But brands are only as strong as their foundation. And cracks? I started finding them everywhere. Camera had a skincare brand she promoted online, Gloora, all natural, ethically sourced, plant-based nonsense. She made videos in silk robes, talking about empowerment and inner light. She had sponsorships, magazine features, a growing cult following. But the business registration was in someone else's name. Specifically, a man named Dalton Reeve. 35. Quiet. A name you wouldn't notice unless you went looking through shareholder filings and licensing patents. Which I did. And guess what? Dalton wasn't just a silent partner. He was the real owner. The formulas? His. The money? His. The factory they used in Nevada? Also his. Camera? She was just a face. A pretty, carefully curated mask. The kind that crumbles fast if someone decides to pull it off. I sat with that information for 3 days. I didn't move, didn't post, didn't respond to Camera's chirpy texts because now that I was back, she loved pretending we'd always been close. Instead, I kept digging. Dad's company, Windbridge Freight, had gone through a quiet merger 6 months ago. Not announced to the public. Not even mentioned in family circles. But it was there, tucked in a corporate filing. A merger with a shell company. And that shell company? It had been flagged in 2 foreign investigations for illegal dumping in international waters. Environmental crime. Major lawsuits pending. Windbridge was knee-deep in a cover-up. And they were hiding it behind polished press releases and fake charity auctions. I realized something then. Something that hit me harder than any slap or insult they'd ever given me. This wasn't just about favoritism. This was about legacy laundering. They were using Camera, using their image, using my silence, to keep their empire intact. And it would have worked if I hadn't come back. The first person I confronted wasn't Dad. It was Camera. We met for lunch at a rooftop cafe she liked, lots of gold decor, lots of mirrors. She arrived late, as always, hugging me like we were best friends. She ordered a salad she didn't eat and launched into a story about her latest brand trip to Paris. I let her talk. And then I asked one question. How much does Dalton pay you to keep your mouth shut? Her fork clinked against the plate. She blinked. Slowly. Like a deer realizing it's already been hit. I don't know what you mean, she stammered. I pulled out my phone. Showed her the filings. The ownership contracts, the trademark registration, all in Dalton's name. She went quiet. You're not a founder, I said calmly. You're a puppet. A pretty one, but replaceable. Her hands were shaking. She reached for her purse. Are you trying to blackmail me? No, I said. I'm giving you a chance to pick a side. She stared at me like I'd grown 2 heads. Side, she whispered. Yours or Dad's. Because now I knew the truth. Camera wasn't innocent. But she wasn't in control, either. She was trapped in a gilded cage. Just like I used to be. And I think, in some twisted part of her, she knew it. That night, she sent me a file. No message. No warning. Just a PDF. It was a list of foundation donations Mom had made in the last 3 years. All marked charitable. All tax-deductible. But most of the organizations didn't exist. They were shell fronts. Fake causes. And all of them funneled money back into Windbridge or Gloora. Fraud. On a massive scale. The next day, I started making calls. I reached out to a former partner of Dad's who'd left the company after the merger. Told him I was a whistleblower. Told him I had receipts. At first, he didn't believe me. Then I sent him the files. By the end of the call, he'd given me the name of an investigative journalist and promised to keep my name out of things. I wasn't doing this for fame. I wasn't doing it for pity. I was doing it because for the first time in my life, I had leverage, and I wasn't afraid to use it. But the worst surprise came a week later. I came home from my cleaning shift to find my front door ajar. Nothing was stolen, but someone had been inside. My laptop was open. My desk drawer, where I kept the flash drives, was half closed. And on the counter, a single white envelope. No address. Just my name. Inside there was a photo. Me and Camera at the cafe. Leaning in close. Her looking upset. And beneath it, in block letters, "You're playing with fire. Stop before you get burned." That's when I knew. They knew. And they weren't just going to let this go. I couldn't go to the police. Not yet. Everything I had was circumstantial or connected to people who wouldn't publicly back me. So I did the only thing I could. I went darker. I moved everything to a secure cloud. I created backups. Gave one to a lawyer friend who owed me a favor. One to a journalist. And one I sent to Dad. No note. No warning. Just the drive. He called me that night. First time in nearly 10 years.
He didn't yell.
Didn't beg. He just said, "I expected better from you." I laughed. Not because it was funny, but because that was exactly what he used to say when camera made a mess and I refused to clean it up. "I'm just giving you what you gave me," I replied. "A hard lesson." He went quiet. Then, "You're throwing away your future." And I told him the truth. My future was never yours to control. The next day, the journalist published the first article. Not everything. Just enough. Windbridge's shady merger. Glowera's silent owner. And a question. Are the Wyness building a legacy or laundering it? It went viral in under 3 hours. Camera deleted her Instagram the same day. Dad issued a no comment. Mom had a nervous episode and checked into a wellness retreat in Sedona. And me? I went to work. I mopped floors. Wrote ad copy for an organic pet food brand. And waited. Because this wasn't over. This was just the beginning. After the article dropped, the world tilted, but not in the way I expected. The fallout didn't arrive all at once, like some cinematic explosion. It came slowly. First in whispers. Then in silences. The Wynn name began to rot for me inside out. Camera went dark on social media. But behind the scenes, she was spiraling. I knew from the grapevine. Her PR manager reached out to mutual friends asking if she should rebrand. As if changing fonts and filters would clean the blood off her hands. Dad's company made a statement. A bland, robotic thing. "We take these allegations seriously and are conducting an internal review." But I wasn't interested in their lies. I was interested in what came next. Because something else had started to grow in me. Not revenge. Not even rage.
Power.
The quiet kind. The kind I'd never tasted. I wasn't just the forgotten daughter anymore. I was a threat. And they knew it. But power doesn't come without cost. One night, I came home and my building's landlord was waiting for me in the hallway. He looked uncomfortable. "Got a call today," he said. "Anonymous. Said you were involved in some kind of espionage situation. Asked about your rent payments." I smiled. Cold. "And what did you say?" He shrugged. "Told them you were one of my quietest tenants. And always on time." Then he added, "You piss off someone important." I didn't answer. I didn't have to. I was being watched.
Tracked.
Pressured in small, insidious ways. My hours at the ad agency got cut. A freelance contract I'd landed mysteriously vanished after one legal concern. It was a war. A quiet one. But I'd been fighting silent battles my whole life. This time, I had armor. I started recording everything.
Calls.
Meetings. Conversations. I bought a burner phone. Set up a fake identity under a variation of my mother's maiden name and used it to contact more sources. Old employees, ex-assistants, former donors. Some of them left. Some hung up.
But a few?
A few talked. One woman, Arlene Vega, had been a secretary for one of Mom's fake foundations. Fired quietly last year. "You're the other daughter, right?" she asked when I called. "Yes," I said. "The one they forgot."
She paused.
Then sighed. "Then I'll talk." That conversation cracked the door open. Turns out, Mom had funneled over $2 million in donations through a front she labeled Feeding Grace. It was supposed to support underprivileged families. Not a single family ever saw a cent. But the foundation paid for first-class flights, designer bags, private chefs, charity as camouflage. With Arlene's testimony and internal emails she still had, I had enough to tip the scales. The second article dropped 10 days later. This one wasn't polite. The headline read, "Feeding Grace, or Feeding Themselves." Inside the Wynn family's charitable fraud. Camera's silence broke. She reactivated Instagram to post a carefully worded apology. She claimed she'd been unaware of the deeper dealings and heartbroken to discover the misuse. Her followers divided instantly. Some rallied. Others raged. But me? I wasn't fooled. I knew Camera better than she knew herself. I knew that look in her eyes when the world was crumbling. I'd seen it when we were kids, when she crashed Dad's car at 17 and begged me to lie for her. I had lied. Back then. This time, I watched her fall. And still, there was one part of the puzzle I hadn't cracked. Dalton, the silent owner. The man behind Camera's brand. Why her? Why now? Why hide? So I found him. He was quiet, reclusive. Lived in a sleek condo outside the city. I showed up at his door with nothing but a flash drive and a warning. "I'm not a reporter," I told him. "I'm her sister." He didn't let me in. But he didn't shut the door either. "What do you want?" he asked, eyes cautious. "The truth," I said. "And maybe a chance for you to protect yourself." He didn't speak for a long time. Then, "She doesn't know what she's doing. She never did. But your father, he did. He promised funding. PR. A family name. He used her. And you let him." He winced. I thought I could control it. I thought she'd grow up. But she's just another Wynn. That's when I realized something. Dalton wasn't the villain. He was just another cog in Dad's machine. Used. Bought. Bent into shape. Like me. I left him with a copy of the files. Told him he had a choice. Tell the truth, or wait for the subpoenas. By now, I wasn't sleeping much. My mind never stopped. I'd lie awake thinking of every dinner where I was ignored. Every celebration where my name was left off the cake. Every time Camera got applause and I got silence. And I'd think they could have made room for both of us. But they chose not to. They chose her. They chose wealth. And now I was choosing justice. But justice doesn't always come clean. There was one final surprise waiting for me. A letter. Hand-delivered. Thick paper. No return address. It was from my father. Not typed. And it was only one sentence. "You were always the smart one, so tell me, what do you think happens next?" I stared at the words for hours. A threat? A dare? A concession? It didn't matter. Because I already knew what came next. The truth. All of it. Not in pieces. But in one final blow. But not all ghosts stay buried. 2 months after Wynn Holdings collapsed, my father sent a message through a lawyer. No apology. No acknowledgement. Just a proposition. A private meeting. At the old estate. He said there were matters to be discussed. I sat with that letter for 2 days. Then I went. Not because I owed him anything, but because closure doesn't always come in silence. The house looked the same, perfectly manicured, painfully hollow. I walked past the marble lions that used to scare me as a child. Now they looked like statues mourning something lost. He was in the study, of course. Same armchair. Same brandy glass. Same cold stare. But he was smaller now. Not physically. Just less. The man who once controlled companies, countries, daughters, looked up at me like I was someone he didn't quite recognize. "Saris," he said, like he was trying the name out for the first time. I didn't sit. "You wanted to talk," I said flatly. He gestured to the seat across from him. I stayed standing. "I underestimated you," he started. "That was a mistake." "No," I corrected. "You didn't underestimate me. You erased me." Silence. He leaned back, watching me like I was some abstract puzzle he couldn't solve. "I built this family," he said slowly. "Everything I did was to protect the legacy." I laughed once. Quiet and sharp. "Legacy? You mean lies, theft, manipulation? You called it leadership, but it was just control." He didn't flinch. "I was hard on you because I thought you needed pressure to become something." "And Camera?" I asked. "What did she need?" $1 million and a luxury car? Or was she just easier to mold? He looked away. That was his tell, always had been. I didn't come here to explain myself, he said. Then why did you call me? He stood, walked to the cabinet, pulled out a slim envelope. I want to transfer what's left.
To you.
I blinked. You mean the scraps after the feds cleaned house? There's still equity.
Property.
Assets not tied to the scandal. And you want me to what? Take it and forgive you. I want to give you what you earned. You don't have the right to define what I've earned. He didn't respond. I took the envelope, tore it in half, let the pieces fall to the floor like ash. You don't get to buy redemption, I said. You can live with the ruins. I already built something better. He didn't stop me as I walked out. That's how I knew it was over. For real, this time. The months that followed were quiet but full. My consultancy grew, not wildly, but intentionally. I hired young women from underfunded backgrounds, taught them how to spot red flags in contracts, how to stand their ground in boardrooms, how to invoice without apology. I never told them what I'd done. Not at first. I wanted them to see me for what I'd become, not what I'd destroyed. But one afternoon, after a particularly long mentorship session, one of them asked me outright, "Were you really the woman who took down Win Holdings?" I looked at her. 19, maybe 20. Fire in her eyes. I thought about lying. Then I didn't. Yes, I said simply. She stared for a long moment. Then she smiled. Good. Camera tried to rebuild. She launched a lifestyle brand focused on authentic living and emotional transparency. It flopped within months. Turns out, no one wants advice from someone who built their life on illusion. She messaged me once. Just once. I was jealous of you, she wrote. You didn't need any of it to shine. I didn't reply. Not because I hated her, but because some apologies are really just requests for absolution. I had my closure. I didn't need hers. 1 year to the day after everything collapsed, I visited the old estate one last time. It had been sold to developers. Soon it would be a series of high-end townhomes with marketing names like Wynn Heights or the estates at Silver Hollow. I stood outside the gates and remembered being 12, nose pressed to the window, watching Camera unwrap her third gift while I cleaned up wrapping paper. I wasn't sad. I wasn't angry. I was free. Now, I live in a brownstone above a bookstore. Every morning, I make tea and look out over the city that once swallowed me whole. It's still big, still brutal, but it doesn't scare me anymore. I write sometimes. Nothing dramatic, just pieces of what I've lived. I don't publish under my name. Not yet. But maybe one day. Maybe a girl will read my words the way I once looked for someone, anyone, who understood what it meant to be invisible in your own family. And maybe she'll keep going. That would be enough. Because in the end, this wasn't just about revenge. It was about resurrection. About showing the world, and myself, that I was never disposable. Never fragile. Never less. They gave my sister a trust fund. But I built my own future. And it can't be bought, buried, or broken.
Not now.
Not ever. I didn't go back to the estate. Not for birthdays. Not for holidays. Not when the headlines broke. Not when Camera's name trended for all the wrong reasons. I watched it all from my small apartment, still modest, still mine. The irony wasn't lost on me. That the place I once felt caged by had become my refuge. The same walls that heard me cry at 18 now held the silence of something powerful. Peace. Wynn Holdings' fall wasn't just a business collapse. It was a reckoning. Banks pulled out. Investors scattered like ants. Lawsuits cropped up. Camera tried to deny everything, tried to make herself the victim. But screenshots don't lie. Leaked messages, forged documents, audio clips. Every fake smile had a timestamp. Every betrayal had a paper trail. And Dad? He disappeared from the public eye. His final statement was short.
Cold.
We are cooperating with the investigation and will pursue all legal avenues available to us. He didn't say my name once. That used to hurt. Now, it only confirms what I've always known. Some people are incapable of real love. They barter affection for obedience. They call it tough love when really, it's just control. But I don't need their love anymore. I have my own. From the people I hired into my startup, some of whom left when holdings the day after the fallout. From the clients who said, "We followed you, not the brand." From the barista, who remembers my name. From the nonprofit my company now funds to help first-gen college students. From strangers who emailed me after the scandal saying, "You're why I didn't give up." That's my legacy. Not revenge. Not destruction. Redemption. I used to think the opposite of betrayal was loyalty. But it's not. It's truth. And when you've lived a life spun from other people's illusions, the truth, however sharp, however lonely, is the only thing that feels real. One afternoon, months after the dust had settled, I got a letter. Handwritten. No return address. The handwriting made my stomach drop.
Camera.
It read, "Saris, I don't know what I expected from you, but it wasn't this. I thought I could control the narrative. I thought money would always protect me. I was wrong. I'm not asking for forgiveness. Just understanding. You were right to walk away. Maybe you always knew what I didn't. I envy that." There was no apology. Not really. But maybe that's the closest she'll ever get. I didn't write back. Because not every chapter needs a sequel. Not every wound needs closure from the person who cut it. Sometimes, you heal by choosing not to reopen what scarred you. And that's what I did. I started running again. Something I hadn't done since high school. It felt symbolic, in a way, pounding pavement with lungs that remembered what it meant to chase. Only this time, I wasn't running from anything. I was running toward the life I'd built. The life I was still building. I made new friends. Built a new team. Created a mentorship program for young women in tech. I started a podcast. Wrote the first chapter of a memoir. Maybe I'll finish it someday. I think about the girl I used to be. The one who watched her sister unwrap a brand new BMW while she struggled to afford bus fare. The one who smiled politely through dinners where her father praised Camera's grades but forgot she existed. The one who stared at trust fund documents like they were a death sentence she didn't remember being tried for. That girl? She made it. She didn't just survive. She grew teeth. She built armor. She didn't burn the bridge. She built a better one. Stronger. Higher. Hers. And yes, I pulled the plug on their lifestyle. But I also pulled the plug on the version of me who believed she was only worth what they were willing to give. You don't need to be chosen to matter. You don't need their permission to succeed. You don't need to win their game when you can rewrite the rules entirely. People ask me if I regret it. If I'd do it again. If exposing my family, my father, my sister, was worth it. And I always say this. They gave me nothing. No roadmap. No safety net. No grace. So, I became something no one could take away. I became free. And in the end, it wasn't about revenge. It was about reclamation. Reclaiming my name. My future. My story. They'll tell their side. Camera already has, spinning half-truths in interviews, branding herself as a woman, learning to stand on her own. I suppose everyone's allowed their narrative. But this is mine. Not filtered. Not polished. Not edited to make anyone comfortable. Just real. So if you're listening, if you've ever been the outsider in your own family, the black sheep, the overlooked, the underestimated, let me tell you, you don't need their crown. You already have a fire they can't extinguish. Let them laugh. Let them doubt. Let them say you'll never make it. Because when you do, when you walk through the ashes of everything they built on your back and step into something that's yours, there's no feeling like it. No trust fund can buy that kind of triumph. And when they come asking, when they realize what they lost, you'll smile. Not out of cruelty, but out of clarity. Because now you know who you are. Not a daughter desperate for approval. Not a sister left behind. Not a pawn in their legacy. But a woman who rewrote her own. And that's the story I came here to tell.